Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Double Dragon for the NES, brought to us by Trade West and Technos. Double Dragon, one of the original beat-em-ups, and one of the all-time classic games for the NES, but was also released on many other home consoles. The NES is actually pretty different from a lot of the other versions of Double Dragon, featuring only one playable character, and even the two-player mode only one player at a time. Some other technological disadvantages caused the game to end up being the way it did, but they also changed up some of the level designs, adding a little bit more platforming to some levels. So here we go with Double Dragon for the NES. When you start off the game, you can choose either one or two players. Like I said, the two-player mode, though, is you taking turns with your buddy. And there's also an A and B modes, with the B modes both being a one-on-one fighting mode, where you get to choose one of 5 different characters and go against another identical version of that character in a one-on-one battle. Double Dragon is broken up into 4 main levels, each usually containing a few different segments. When we start the game, we get to see the opening cutscene where Marion is taken away, and then we get control of Billy Lee, or also known as either Hammer or Spike in some of the North American arcade release material. In most versions of the game, you would also have your brother Jimmy as your co-op partner, who also appears as the co-op partner in the other future Double Dragon games. However, because of the limitations, he doesn't end up appearing in this game until the final boss of the game. This is a playoff that during the arcade version and other versions of the game, when you completed the game and saved Marion, she actually made the two brothers fight over her, and that was the true ending. However, with the NES version, they just ended up making Jimmy the final boss. Unlike other versions of Double Dragon as well, you actually have to earn your other moves for your moveset. You start off with a few basic moves, but when you level up by getting points, you earn the other moves, the much more important and special moves that can really damage some of the enemies that you fight. Due to some of those limitations we've already talked about, you'll actually see you can only fight 2 enemies on screen at one time, and they actually both have to be the same enemy, so you're not going to be seeing 2 different enemies on screen at once. There's a few different weapons you can pick up in the game as well, like the baseball bat or the whip. You can also pick up some barrels and launch them at enemies. The bat and whip pretty much do the same amount of damage to the enemies when you end up hitting them. Inside this building, we deal with the first boss fight of the game against a Bobo. With a nicely timed kick to a Bobo's gut, you can knock him down over the conveyor belt and into the large pit, completing the stage. We then move on to level number 2, and don't worry, we'll fight more Bobos as the levels go on. With pretty much only the basic moves at our disposal, we are going to mainly use weapons to really help us keep enemies on the ground and repeatedly hitting them over and over. Use the kick from a distance, this gives you a little bit more range, or you can try to use the headbutt. Watch out on these guys, they do have dynamite with them, and when they throw the dynamite at you, it will explode a few seconds later. Climb up here onto the fence and take out the next guy, picking up the bat he drops. Then go ahead and use it in order to beat him down. Make it to the end, you can jump off or climb down if you want to, they really won't take much damage here. And then continue to use the bat to take out the next few enemies. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen you have your 1 player, or it'll be 2P in case you're playing as a second player, with the health bar next to it, how many lives you currently have left, the high score, and your current score on the far right. Below the middle area is the time you have left to complete the area you're particularly on, and to the left of that is your total amount of experience that you've been gathering and the level you currently are, with the level being represented by hearts. We're going to use the whip to take out the last few enemies, and then we're going to climb up this ladder and take out the next couple. Now, there's a special trick to the second level boss that I think most people, of course, already know about, but I figure I'll show it off for fun during this particular run. Thankfully, I've also leveled up to level number 3, and this will allow us to do the jump kick. Pressing A and B together, of course, will allow us to do this. When you see the boss appear at the top door, just, well, climb down the ladders until he's off screen. Once he's completely off screen, you'll, well, move on to the third level of the game. Level number 3 is a lot more complicated than the previous first 2 levels. If you're wondering about the experience, you'll see it in the lower left corner. In order to gain experience, you have to do certain moves. Some moves, especially the really cool special moves, actually don't give you any experience at all, which is pretty annoying. You'll end up getting like 20 for a punch, 15 for a kick, but some of the really cool stuff like the hair grab and the straddle punch, you won't be getting anything at all for. Usually I like to level up to at least level 5, which gives me my 2 favorite moves, one at level 4 and one at 5. Even though the enemy types are a little bit different and tougher enemies in level number 3, except for, well, the big giant Abobo bosses will be battling quite a bit, most enemies are going to be taken out with the same strats. We're going to be doing the jump kicks a lot, they can really help us out, and using the kick from a far distance. This, of course, is until we level up some more. If you can get a hold of the bat weapon here, of course you'll want to use that to help you out, and then make sure that you jump over cleanly over the gap on the bridge. Now that we have reached level number 4, we have the hair grab ability. The hair grab ability is a medium range attack. You want to be about medium or long distance range away from your enemy, and then you'll want to deliver a kick to them. Sometimes you'll automatically grab the hair, or you'll want to kick them to stun them and then back away the opposite direction. Usually this will cause the game to make you grab them. Once you've grabbed them, you'll press B in order to bash them with your knee, and the A button in order to launch them over your shoulder. This is one of the best moves to pull off, and you can use it against most enemies in the game, with the only exception being Abobo, the giant bald guy, and Jimmy, your brother, the final boss of the game. When you make it over to the right area here with this big mountain, the mountain will explode and out will pop 2 of the Abobo enemies. Now, we didn't battle the one from the first level, but he's the same, just you're battling 2 at one time. Try to keep them separated if you can. Hit and attack one, then go over and start dealing with the other one. If you can use the jump kick, use that in order to hit them. Sometimes they will end up ducking the jump kick, and this can get quite annoying. Just don't stand there too long and let them do a lot of attacks to you. Immediately either start mashing the attack or backing away if your move ends up not connecting with them. Once you've done enough damage and defeated both of the Abobos, you'll want to go inside the cave itself. Do not continue to the right. If you keep going to the right, well, the game will just loop back around and you'll have to work your way back to those caves. Once inside the cave itself, watch out for all the spikes that are going to be falling down from the ceiling as you slowly progress. These do quite a bit of damage, and one thing I do love about the game, though, is the fact you gain all your health back in between these segments and levels of the game. This really helps you out as far as being able to keep your life count up. There's some tricky platforming, and if you miss your jumps, it's an instant death, so you want to be really careful. Over to the far right here, though, the door will open up and you'll have to battle 2 of these guys, basically clones of the second level boss of the game. Use the jump kicks if you can to alternate back and forth, hitting each one of them away from you. Using the hair grab can also help you out. Now that we've reached level 5, though, we have the sitting face punch ability. When there's a downed enemy, get over top of them and press down, and then mash the A button in order to punch the enemies directly in the face. This does a ton of damage and will eliminate enemies very, very quickly. Of course, if you're on top of one of the enemies and you end up getting knocked off by the other one, it will stop you from punching that enemy. But if you're able to do this, you'll see it does quite a bit of damage pretty fast and gets rid of a lot of enemies quick. Of course, the only downside to the particular moves I'm talking about are the fact they don't give you any experience points. And because of this, we're going to have only a little bit of experience that we'll be gaining for the rest of the game. Do a big jump off the top of the cliff there, and you'll land hopefully safely on one of the platforms down below. You have to do a little bit more platforming before you reach the edge here, and you'll jump back down again. When you reach the bottom, out pops a green Abobo. Yep, he's channeled his inner Incredible Hawk, and he's ready to Hawk smash you if he possibly can. Just like other Abobos, we're going to try to use the jump kick if possible. Sometimes that won't be an option, and you can, if you're far enough away, attempt to do a kick combo, being able to knock them back away. If you're able to get them stuck on the left side, you can try the headbutt ability, because you'll be able to kind of step in them and be able to deliver the headbutt without them being able to hit you with their punches or kicks, as they'll go just a little bit past your body. Once you've defeated one, however, another one immediately spawns on the opposite side of the screen. Here I'll use my jump kicks if I can to try to keep him off the screen altogether. If one of my jump kicks fail and he ends up ducking down to dodge it, I'll usually try to do a headbutt right afterwards to keep him at bay. It'll be a pretty long, dragged-out fight sometimes, but once he's done, go through the entrance. You don't want to continue to the right. Once outside, drop down to this level, and a couple enemies will pop out of the cave. Use your hair pull and shoulder throw abilities, or go ahead and when you knock them down, get on top and deliver a few punches to take these out. After you defeated two, well, two more will immediately spawn outside of the cave. Just continue the process of beating them all up. Be careful not to knock them off the platform, because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky then to drop down and be able to actually get to them. Drop down here, and once you're down here, climb down the right side in order to enter inside of this room, and you'll complete level number 3. Now it's time for the 4th and final level of Double Dragon on the NES. Be very careful at the beginning of the level. You have these things that will pop out of the walls and try to push you and knock you down on your back. If you end up getting hit, just try to keep jumping and get ahead and get past these walls as fast as you can. Over here, you'll have to battle more of those long-haired guys. You can actually knock them into the pit or even throw them into the pit with the shoulder throw if you're at a good distance. If you're able to get one down and another one is not nearby, get on top if you can and deliver a few face punches in order to deal with them. Once you've defeated all of them, continue over to the right. You'll have to do a jump over a small gap, and another Abobo will pop out of the wall. Ignore him. Just climb up the rock wall. Once he gets off screen, like the boss from level 2, he's gone for good, and you'll just have to deal with the enemies now on the top portion. Use your hair pull and shoulder throws when you can in order to really quickly get rid of all these guys. Once you've defeated them all, go into one of the entrances here and you'll be outside of the area. This is probably the trickiest platforming, but there's a few enemies that will spawn. You don't have to deal with them. Over here, you'll want to climb up this first ladder. An enemy's going to pop out, try to just knock him down to the ground, then walk to the edge and do a big jump over. Now you can climb the ladder and go down the other ladder on that platform, but by the time to jump right, you can skip a little bit of that. Jump onto the moving platform that's going up and down, then jump to the right and climb up another ladder. You may have to wait a few seconds here in order for the other moving platform to come back down so that you can jump on top of it. Once it rises to the top, you'll want to jump over to that right side and climb up the next ladder. Once up here, jump onto the next moving up and down platform and enter the snake-like mouth at the top. We're almost to the end of the game here. Once you start this area, you'll have to battle a couple of normal enemies, use your punches and throws in order to quickly disperse of them. Once you've defeated all those guys, head over to the right, and it's time for the final battle of the game. It starts off with a boss gauntlet. You'll start off by having to fight 2 Abobos at once. As soon as they spawn though, you can get the jump on them and immediately do a jump kick at them in order to do a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, there's no way to easily disperse these guys, so you're going to have to slowly deplete their health in order to deal with them. Using the jump kicks as well as the headbutt seem to be the most effective. When you've reached level 6 though, you do get the elbow punch. When you face away from an enemy and attack, you'll be able to do the back elbow, which is one of the most effective techniques for dealing with enemies, though I don't really use it too much. Once you defeat the 2 Abobos, you'll now have to deal with these guys. When you've reached the final level and leveled up all the way to level 7, you'll have the spinning kick. This added ability of your jump kick will definitely help you take out some of the enemies during the last parts of the game. Because we're able to use the hair throw and the regular drop down in order to take out some enemies, these guys aren't too bad. The Abobos are obviously the worst before we have to deal with the 2 bosses. This boss we can actually use the hair throw on, and because of that, it actually works really effectively. You'll be able to deliver a couple of kicks and sometimes the spin kick, or just deliver a kick, get in, and use the hair throw in order to launch his butt all the way across the screen. It won't take too much of this in order to defeat him before, well, it's final boss time, and it's time for us to fight our brother, Jimmy Lee. A lot of times the jump kicks will not work out too well. Use your spinning kicks when you can in order to hit him. You'll deliver a couple of kicks usually to the gut, and then do the spin kick in order to knock him on his butt. If you're able to get him into the upper left corner, spam kicks as much as you can. You may be able to kind of catch him in a loop, at least for a little while, and knock him down quite a few times. Of course, since he's the final boss, it will take quite a few hits to defeat him, but once he's down, you can sit back and enjoy the ending to Double Dragon. After the short but sweet ending, the game will go back to the title screen and you can start the game all over again. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.